Imagine changing your life so much that others in your circle followed suit, and then all your friends became healthy. That's exactly what happened with my next guest. Welcome to the Fabulous Health Show. I'm your host, Terry Chrisman, and I'm a whole foods, plant-based nutritionist, and this show gives you the tools to help you obtain optimal health so that you can live a long, happy life and age with grace and vitality. It is episode 53, and today we are joined by Cindy Thompson. Cindy was a firefighter who adopted a whole food plant-based diet and lost 60 pounds. Not only did her workmates follow suit and improve their own health, Cindy then felt so good she went on to become a triathlete and a vegan health coach. She is a Food for Life instructor with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, my favorite organization in the whole entire world, a rude plant-based professional, and a Harvard Medical School culinary coach. And she has a fantastic website, trymazing.com. Welcome, Cindy, to the Fabulous Health Show.
Thank you, Terry. I'm thrilled to be here this morning.
And Cindy's coming live from Hawaii, so it's very, very, very early in the morning. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. So let's start at the beginning. You were a firefighter. I'm assuming you were overweight because you lost 60 pounds. Why did you investigate a whole food plant-based lifestyle in the beginning?
Yeah, well, it wasn't to lose weight. That's the crazy part. So I went plant-based over 12 years ago. And the reason that I changed my diet is I didn't want to get cancer. See, my father had just passed away from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a terrible cancer, a blood cancer. He battled it for years. And I helped my mom take care of him. And it really had a huge impact on me. And I was really concerned about it. I just didn't know what to do. But the real impetus was a year later, the state where I worked as a fire captain passed a presumptive cancer law for firefighters, which meant that if you were a firefighter in that state and you were diagnosed with one of 12 specific cancers, it was presumed it was an on-the-job illness and was covered by labor and industries or a workers' comp. And on that list was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but also two other blood cancers, multiple myeloma and leukemia, which were cancers that my dad's mother had died from. So looking at this list, I was terrified that I was going to get cancer. I didn't know if cancer was hereditary, but I had my grandmother and my father died from blood cancer. And now my state said that my job could give me blood cancer and I needed to do something.
Wow. So, they actually acknowledged that the job was a cancer-giving job.
Yes. And it's very common. Actually, I think almost every state in the United States has a presumptive cancer law for firefighters. There's such a high correlation between cancer and firefighting because of the exposure to the chemicals of combustion.
That's terrible.
That it's, yeah. And
did they tell you that when you sign up?
They didn't, because it was really not known when I became a firefighter. But as I was a firefighter, they started to research this. They started to see the trends and enacted these laws. Yeah. So it's a huge thing. It's they're blood cancers, testicular cancer in men, lung cancer, a lot of those cancers. And at first, it covered men's reproductive cancers because there were so few women firefighters that it was statistically insignificant. They couldn't tell if those caused cancers in women as well in the reproductive tracts. But they finally decided that, you know what, if it's causing reproductive cancers in men, it's doing the same for women. So most states now are covering breast cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, for women firefighters too.
That's scary statistic unto itself. But
yes.
Tell me, so you had this fear that you were going to get cancer,
yes.
A, because of your job, and B, because of your history.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you thought that there was some genetic component to it, but then you did some research. And when you did the research, what did you find?
So what I found was that it really didn't have much to do with genetics. It had more to do with your lifestyle and including healthy eating. So what I learned was through research at my medical school library was that if I changed to a whole food plant-based diet, I could really significantly reduce my risk of all types of cancer. So I thought, what have I got to lose? If all I have to do is eliminate animal protein and eat fruits and vegetables, grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, I'm going to try it. To me, it was worth the risk. So I decided overnight to change my way of eating, which was a scary prospect, not just because it's a huge lifestyle change, but I was a firefighter, and part of the culture of being a firefighter is eating in the firehouse. We do family meals and we cook for each other and we take turns cooking. And I was really nervous about introducing that big of a change to my firehouse. But
Wow.
yeah,
That's full on. So when you first started, what was their attitude to you cooking food for them that didn't have any animal protein in it and didn't have any dairy in it? Were they did they kind of, I don't know about that?
well, what I did, and I've done this with any type of group, my family, etc., is I sat down and explained my why. Why was I doing this? Why was this important? And for my crew, that was very helpful because they knew my dad. They had met him. He had come and done ride-alongs, and he just loved being a part of the crew. And they knew what I had gone through with him, with his illness. So that was important. And because we were all in the same boat of the cancer risk, that kind of got their attention. Like we were all really afraid of getting cancer. So I explained my why. And then I said, this is my change. I am not putting this on you. You can still eat how you want to eat. That's your personal choice. My personal choice is to eliminate all animal products and eat whole food plant-based for my health. And so when I cook, that's what I'm going to make. I'm going to make whole food plant-based food that's going to be great. And you can have that as your meal. You could have it as a side dish. You could make meat for yourself if that's what you would like. It's not going to hurt my feelings. And then when it's your turn to cook, I'm not going to ask you to cook anything different. We always have a big salad. That was a huge part of our family meal at the fire station in my department. We always had this giant bowl of salad. I said, as long as you don't put meat or cheese in it, I'm fine. And I will add to it. And whatever I have made the previous shift, I'll put in the fridge or the freezer and I can eat them as leftovers. And so as long as there's a salad to go with it, I'm perfectly fine.
Oh, you're so accommodating.
Yeah, well, I needed to be accommodating. And because I didn't want to change what was happening in our station. I didn't want it to be separate. Because, the family meal at a fire station is a huge camaraderie builder. And in any kind of organization, breaking bread together is a huge team builder. In fact, I have a master's in leadership. And one of the things that we studied was how to build leadership and build teams through sharing a meal. And they used the example of the fire station, which I thought was fantastic.
Wow.
It's a big deal. So I wanted it to be inclusive. I didn't want to say, I'm going to sit over here and eat my own thing. And, you guys, you eat what you want. I wanted it to be inclusive. That was important to me.
Lovely.
So that's how we did. And, they were nervous because I was known as a really great firehouse cook. And, and they're like, but we love what you cook. We love what you make. And I said, listen, I think I know I can make great food this way. It's still food and it's going to be wonderful. And, if I'd love your feedback, if there's something we need to change, that's fine, but it's still going to be great.
That's the thing. I think if you are a good cook, you're a good cook, whether it's plant-based or it's not plant-based. And I think if there's a fear, and that's the next question I'm going to ask you, but I'll just have a chat first. If there's a fear around people cooking plant-based, it's because they maybe are not great cooks unto themselves. But if you know how flavors come together and you know how to make food taste yummy, then just taking out those animal products is not really a big deal, is it? But I do want to ask you, what was the hardest thing for you to change? Because you, as I understand, you went from the standard American diet, didn't you?
I sure did. Yeah,
Right.
I grew up like eating just what everyone else ate. You know, we ate processed food and hamburger helper, and I mean, that was just
I don't
didn't
even know
eat
what that
anything
is.
special. That's an American boxed pasta rice dish that you add meat to. It was, you know, I had a working mom, and so she did things that were fast and easy, and we thought they were all healthy, and you know, you added meat to it. It had to be healthy, right?
So what was the hardest thing for you to give up?
Well, there's the deal. When I told people, especially people at the fire station, that I was changing and not eating animal products, they said, "But you're addicted to cheese." and I said, "I know, but I've got to try this. I got to do something." So I, for years, had told people that I was addicted to cheese. I knew in my heart of hearts that I had a problem with cheese, and I didn't know that it, in fact, truly is addictive. But I knew that I was addicted to it. So I was the kind of person, I put cheese on everything. If I didn't like something, I covered it with cheese. So I didn't like eggs growing up. So if my family on Saturday and Sunday mornings made omelets, if it had just 2 inches of cheese on it, I would be able to handle it. I would make cheese sandwiches all the time. My favorite thing was nachos without the chips, which meant you grate cheese, you put it on a plate, you melt it in the microwave, and you eat it with a fork.
Oh, but I'm sorry that we're laughing, because
that's okay. I laugh at myself because I thought that was a healthy, nutritious snack. And, you know, that's something I had a lot. But the big thing is I would wake up in the middle of the night, not able to sleep. And constantly, almost every night I would wake up and I would go to the refrigerator and I would cut a slice of cheese, Tillamook cheddar cheese. That's what I grew up on. And I would come back to bed and eat that cheese, and I would be able to fall asleep. Now, sometimes, and this would be at the fire station too, sometimes I would wake up in the morning with an old crusty piece of cheese with one bite out of it on my pillow, like a junkie with a needle in their arm.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a huge thing.
That is full on. Now, I'm assuming you've read the book by Dr. Neil Barnard called The Cheese Trap.
I did, but I read that after I made my transition. I didn't know anything about that. I was just so shocked when I learned.
Yeah, I just want to put that in there right now, that if anybody watching or listening has an addiction to cheese, and you may or may not realize if you have an addiction to cheese, but if you're listening to Cindy talking now, you can tell she had a serious physical addiction to cheese. I highly recommend that you go and get that book. It's called The Cheese Trap, and it's by Dr. Neil Barnard, and you can get it on fabuloushealth.net through my Amazon store. It is an amazing book, and it tells you all the nasties about cheese. So how did you give up cheese?
I just told myself I wasn't going to eat it anymore. And I was so motivated about reducing my cancer risk that I just stopped eating anything that wasn't whole food plant-based. And it was hard. I would open the refrigerator door, especially I would wake up in the middle of the night that first week, and I'd like, I just really want that cheese. But I told myself, you know what? It could cause cancer for me. So it's just not a food that I can eat. I'm just not going to eat it. And so I had, a couple of weeks of restless, not feeling good, really craving it. And I just stayed away from it. To me, it was not a healthy food for me anymore. And then after that time, I just stopped even worrying about it. And so just like any addiction, it's hard. You really have to grit and come up with some rules for yourself that I'm just not going to do. I'm going to do something else and get it off my mind. And then eventually your body learns how to function without that substance. And in my case, that was the casein in cheese.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you're basically telling us that you went cold turkey on an addiction and then you crushed it, which is just, it doesn't matter what kind of addiction it is, whether it's tobacco or drugs or alcohol or whatever. That is just an amazing thing that you did. And it's, I'm thinking that it's the determination because of the outcome. And the outcome is, I don't want to get cancer, which has stopped you from doing that. Unfortunately, a lot of people, cancer is so far away. I don't have cancer. I'm eating whatever. But, if I get cancer in 30 years, it doesn't matter. But it does matter, does it? Because your family and your loved ones have died of cancer and you know what it feels like. So then you started to lose weight.
I did.
So tell me what happened at the fire station when Cindy started to get shrinking Cindy.
So I had kind of got to the point in my life after dieting, yo-yo dieting, and gaining more weight every time I had to diet and gain things back. I just had gone to the point where I thought, I'm just a big girl and that's how I am. And I would tell myself stories like, well, I need to be big so that I could handle the hose. So I weigh as much as the men, and that's okay. It's all right for me to be big. But when I started changing how I eat, all of a sudden I started to feel better. I started to lose some weight. I slept through the night. I didn't wake up achy in the morning. And I didn't know I ached every morning until I didn't ache. But I got all this energy and started to realize, I think I'll work out. And so I started to get engaged with some fitness. But at the fire station, we had started a new a voluntary fitness program and about healthy eating called Flame. It was from Oregon Health Sciences University. And we had an activity at my fire station where you would look at a meal and look at the fat grams and have a big tub of Crisco, hard vegetable shortening. And based on that meal and the amount of grams of fat, you would measure out how much Crisco on a plate that meal had in fat. And so we were looking at a cheeseburger, fries, and milkshake. And we had our plate and we kept scooping out more and more Crisco onto the plate. So we had a plate that was piled with Crisco.
That's the best program I've ever heard in my life.
I
love this program.
Yeah. We just couldn't believe it. And we looked at that. And one of the guys on my crew said, yeah, Cindy, but you see all that fat, but every once in a while, don't you just want to have a cheeseburger, milkshake, and fry meal? I said, yeah, all the time. And I have it all the time. They looked at me. I said, well, I could have a portobello mushroom burger. This was before you had plant-based vegetable burgers. And I can make sweet potato fries. And I'm going to make a strawberry milkshake, a smoothie. And the guy said, that's interesting. And the most senior guy on my crew, it's actually one of the most senior guys in the department, said, you know what? I tell you what, if you can make a vegan cheeseburger, milkshake, and fry meal that I like, I'll go vegan.
Wow.
And I looked at him. I said, and I just didn't, I was speechless. I just couldn't. And then the other guys they look at this most senior firefighter and said, yeah, I'll do that too. All four of them, or all three of them, said, yeah, if you make a meal and we like it, we'll go vegan with you. I'm like, game on. Let's get in the engine. Let's go to the grocery store. So we went to the store. I picked up what we needed.
You took the fire truck to the grocery store.
Yeah. So we always do. That's what, you couldn't leave the fire station or the fire engine
without your truck, just in case.
Yeah. So we always, every shift. Yeah. So that's why you see firefighters in their engine at the grocery store. They're buying their food with their own personal money. We didn't use city money for our groceries, but we had a pool of money that we paid for groceries. And so we went and I bought our groceries, and it came back and I made that meal and they loved it. And they all went plant-based with me. And so they had seen how much better I felt. They had
Yeah.
seen my weight loss starting. And I think that that's what encouraged him to say, I'll do it. He needed some way to say, you know what, I want to do this, but I need an out. I need a way to make it look like I'm not trying just to follow her. So,
Yeah. But he
that
said
was
he'd give it a
wonderful.
go. That's the
He
thing.
gave it a go. They all did. And so I wish that I had had the smarts and the wherewithal to like write a book called like the Engine 74 diet.
You still can.
You know, I did never heard of Rip Esselstyn and the Engine 2 diet. But my crew, we all lost weight. We all felt fantastic. The other people on my crew had their cholesterol and their blood work done. Their cholesterols all fell. And it was wonderful. You know, I had other people on my crew that had family members that had cancer. And so that was a huge impetus for them. And they became huge allies. And, you know, I got a lot of great recipes from them. They started to cook whole food plant-based. They did that at home as well. And it was just a great thing.
That is fantastic. Talk to us about the statistic of firefighters and first responders who die on the job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not from being burnt in a fire, is it?
No.
What is the main cause of first responders' death in America? Tell us that.
Yeah. So for line of duty death for firefighters is not trauma, it's not fire, it's not vehicle accidents, it's cardiovascular events, heart attacks and strokes. And that can be whether it's on duty or within 24 hours of getting off shift with a major incident. So that's how they measure the statistic for line of duty death for firefighters for cardiovascular disease.
It's just dreadful, isn't it? And
it is.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that that's such a high statistic?
Well, first of all, it is mirroring the general population, right? Yes. The number one killer for the general population is heart attack and stroke. So we're just a slice of the population. It's also a large population of men with a lot of machismo. So there's a lot of meat consumption in that group. Even though we are, you know, considered healthy and we work out, there's a lot of very healthy looking on the outside firefighters that die from heart attacks. There's that. And then the other risk factor is interrupted sleep. They've done a lot of sleep studies on fighter pilots, actually, because they have a lot of sleep interruption. And the more disjointed your sleep is, the higher your risk of heart disease. Wow. And they're still trying to figure out what the connection is there. So we've got that extra whammy. Plus, it's a very high stress job. You know, so there's extra stress, and all those things combined really do lead to cardiovascular risk.
So why not lessen the risk by taking one risk factor out, and that's your diet? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so from that point that I decided to change my diet, within that year, I lost 60 pounds, and it was effortless. I
love that word, effortless. You just ate food and the weight released itself.
It did. It was just magical. And I thought, if I'd only known this before.
That's why we're here, Cindy, because we need to tell everybody that it is magical, and we need everybody to know it now, not later, not when they're sick.
And not only was it effortless then, but I have not had to count calories. I haven't had to count carbs. I haven't had to worry about what I'm eating and my weight. You know, I have an eating pattern. I know that I eat whole plant-based foods, and then I don't have to worry about it. So it's just taken a huge bandwidth of stress out of my brain, and I could use it for other things.
That's true. When we diet, when we spend our time dieting, all we're doing is thinking about food and thinking about, I can't have that, and it's not fair, and it does take up a lot of space in your brain, doesn't it? So when you can release that, and just, because I remember when I was dieting, why my main wish was that I could just live my life and not think about food, not think about, can I have it? Can I have it? It's not fair. Now, you're right. We just eat. We just eat food and it's all good. And, our bodies are a reflection of what it is that we do. So let's talk about exercise. You mentioned that you started exercising when you started feeling better and the aches and pains were going. You went a bit hardcore, didn't you? So
I did.
You didn't just kind of, I might, just do a few aerobics things 3 or 4 times a week. Tell us what you decided to do once you started feeling healthy.
Well, I started out with running. I had so much energy and I had a lot of stress in my life at that moment. And I would get stressed out and I thought, I'm just going to run. I don't know why, but I feel like I'm going to run. So I would go for a run. And a friend of mine said, hey, let's do a fun costume race. So I did a costume race. I did a 5K. It was great. And we thought, oh, that was kind of fun. She said, there's this race I want to do called the Muddy Buddy. And it's a costume race and one of us runs and one of us rides a bike and we switch back and forth during the race. Sometimes you ride the bike, sometimes you run. Like, okay. So we did that and it was fantastic. And I was so proud of myself. We were dressed up as Mrs. Santa Claus and, and we just had a ball. And at the end of it, I thought, I've just done 2/3 of a triathlon. I've always kind of been intrigued by triathlon, but I just did a race where I ran and rode a bicycle. All I have to do is figure out how to swim and I could do a triathlon. So I found a local triathlon club because I had no idea how to do that. I knew how to swim, but I just wasn't a competitive swimmer. Joined this triathlon club. They had a try, which is a short, even shorter than a sprint triathlon. And I learned how to do triathlon and I love the community of the triathlon community. And I got addicted to triathlon. So I every weekend was spent doing a triathlon race and I've done every iteration of that from the triathlon to Ironman.
Wow. You've done an Ironman triathlon. So tell I know what an Ironman triathlon is because I've run marathons before. So tell everybody, what's the distance for each of the legs of an Ironman triathlon?
Yeah. So it's a 2.5-mile swim, a 100-mile bike, a little over 102-mile bike, and a marathon at the end for an Ironman. Yeah.
On the same day, people.
On the same day.
Not
one after
days.
The other.
That blows my mind. That is, an Ironman triathlon is the greatest feat of endurance that a person can ever do. I know there's, 100-mile endurance races, but for me, that is phenomenal. How long did it take you to train for that?
Oh, well, it took us a couple years actually to get built up. And then I had a year-long training plan to get ready for Ironman. Yeah. It takes a lot of commitment. Yeah.
But if people are listening and they're hearing you, and they're going, oh, I could never do that. You don't have to do that. You can do like little itty bitty baby triathlons. What was the shortest distance that you did of a triathlon?
The triathlon, so it's even shorter than what they call sprint. So, and that, I think that was a 500-meter swim. It may have been 300-meter swim.
Okay, so that's 6 laps of a pool. That's easy.
Yeah.
People can do that, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was maybe a 5-mile bike ride. And I used my mountain bike on that. I didn't have a special bike or anything. And then we had a 2-mile run. So
perfect. So even if your fitness is not like out the park, that's a really nice introduction. And in fact, kids can do that.
Yeah, there are lots of kids that do those too. And the other thing you can do is get 3 people together, 2 of your friends, and do a relay of a triathlon, which is a great thing. So you could do one part of it. Maybe you're a strong swimmer, you could do the swim and someone else could then you kind of basically hand off the baton. They ride the bike, they come back and the next part of the team runs. So that there's lots of things that you can do. But what I loved about triathlon is that it was so supportive that as you're doing the event, you're cheering on everyone else. And I did running events, I did cycling events, and I never felt that camaraderie of everybody lifting each other up as I did in triathlon. everyone's always making sure you're okay. If you stop to tie your shoe, you okay? You need anything? Oh, I'm good. There's a famous video that they show in the Ironman International Ironman that's here in Hawaii every year. And one of the leaders had a flat tire. She had multiple flat tires, and she was on her third flat tire, and she didn't have any more air to fix her tire. And she was in the lead, and the other rider who was in second place, came past her and saw that she had a flat tire and didn't have supplies, and she tossed an air canister to her so she could inflate her tire.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that fantastic? That's just kind of how the spirit of triathlon is that in any other race, that person would be like, oh, thank goodness, I got this in the bag. Yeah.
That's right. But, thanks for playing by.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a very, very supportive event. And I really do like it. There's triathlon clubs all over the world. If you are interested in doing triathlon, you could just do a Google search that's, triathlon clubs near me and find one. It seems intimidating. We all have in our mind the picture of, the career athlete, triathlete. But, there's just from every walk of life in triathlon clubs. And
that's right. And you don't have to come first. Like
no.
that's not the goal, is it? The goal is actually to finish the race.
To finish the race, or just to be in the race. I mean, even I've had races that I didn't finish for one reason or the other, and just being there is the big part of it. Yeah.
So that brings me to your website name, which is trymazing.com.
Yes.
So that's 2 words. Tell me how they come together.
Yes. So, how my website started is I actually started with a blog that was called Cindy T is for Triathlon, because I couldn't think of a name. And everyone was always asking me, how do you start into triathlon? And then it turned into, how do you eat vegan and do triathlon? And I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to hold myself accountable, number one, and have this blog as a diary of how do you start being a triathlete? And also to share about eating plant-based. So I started this blog. And I decided after, probably 2 years of having this blog, I just hated the name. And I thought, I need to find a better name. So I was at the fire station, and it was at night. I was laying there saying, it's got to be, I just feel amazing. And triathlon is amazing. And how can I figure out these 2 words? And all of a sudden I thought, try amazing. Triathlon's amazing. Try amazing. So I got up, I thought, I wonder if that's available as a domain name. So I searched Try Amazing, and the only thing
it was.
The only thing that came up was something in the Urban Dictionary that Try Amazing means 3 times better than amazing. And I thought, oh,
yes,
that is so awesome, because that's how I feel. So that is the birth of Try Amazing. So Try Amazing is 3 times better than amazing, doing better things for your health, the planet, and animals. And so that's how the birth of Try Amazing came from.
Love it. Love it. So if you want to check out Cindy, you can check out her beautiful website, trymazing.com. And before we go, I just want to ask you, what's in the bag for you at the moment? I heard a little birdie tell me that you are actually putting together a cookbook. Is that true?
It is. It is. So I am in the process of writing a cookbook called Unseafood. I have an ebook copy of that. And if your listeners went to trymazing.com/chef AJ, CHF you can download a copy of my Unseafood book. It's 20 plant-based recipes with a taste of the sea. I was just recently on the Chef AJ show, and you can find that on YouTube. I'll put that link in that webpage so that you can also watch the video that shows me making the food. Perfect.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So you can download the cookbook at trymazing.com/chef AJ. And I'm still working on adding more so that I can actually have a full cookbook. So hopefully within the next year, I will have that book published. It would be great. I was never a huge seafood eater. And I know, Terry, you weren't either.
No, I'm not.
My family was a huge seafood eating family. And I was the strange one that we would go to a seafood restaurant. We didn't go out to dinner much, but if we did, it was to a seafood restaurant, which was the bane of my existence.
Yeah.
And I would eat a salad and cheesecake. That was just like the big family joke. And so you probably think, well, for someone who didn't eat seafood, why does she make a seafood book? And it's for my husband. My husband
is so sweet.
Was not plant-based when we met, and his favorite food is seafood. And he was concerned. He was more than happy to eat plant-based. But his real struggle was, I really love seafood, so I think I'm just going to be pescatarian. So my husband is an athlete. He's been a lifelong athlete. He's a marathon swimmer. So his favorite thing to do is to swim long distances in open water, such as from Catalina Island to Long Beach, or between the islands of Lanai and Maui, the Maui Channel swim. And so he looks at food as fuel, always has, as an athlete. And he said, he would eat plant-based if he could see the effects, if it positive towards his athleticism. And sure enough, when we changed his diet, his athleticism soared. And so
I'm actually reading a book about that at the moment. I think it's called The Plant-Based Athlete.
Yeah. So, and he's a pharmacist, so he really wanted to see the data. So as he changed how he was eating, he had lab work done, and his cholesterol, he thought he was super healthy, and he just realized how much healthier he could be. So, his PSA levels have actually fallen. And for a man, as they age, their PSA levels always increase. Yeah. And so his urologist is just flabbergasted. Like, what are you doing?
That is right.
Yeah. So in effort to help him eat whole food plant-based, and also to save the oceans, because I'm a huge proponent of not eating seafood and leaving them in the ocean, I started to experiment with making plant-based seafood. And so this e-cookbook is full of things that you could use to make plant-based sushi that mimics freshwater eel, unagi.
Wow.
Yeah. Tuna and crab. It has recipes for carrot lox, which is so good. Some different chowders, a creamy New England chowder and a tomato-based Manhattan clam chowder, tuna noodle casserole, which I grew up on. There's I call it totally possible carrot quiche, as I grew up also on the Bisquick impossible quiche with tuna. That was what my mom used to make a lot. So I've reimagined it as a whole food plant-based.
So that's an interesting point here, is that we're not talking about highly processed seafood substitute meat. You know what I mean? We're not talking about that. You're using the fruits and vegetables around this screen to make things that taste like fishy bits.
Yes.
That is just phenomenal.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
And so using spices and herbs and vinegars and stuff like that to get the fishy. So I'm assuming you're going to use a bit of seaweed, because that's
So vegetables is the kind of the mainstay in these. And the fascinating part is the thing that makes fish taste like fish is sea vegetables. Fish themselves don't taste fishy. They taste fishy because they eat sea vegetables. That's where that flavor comes from.
That's the same with the omega-3s, isn't it? When people...
It is. That's where they get their omega-3s.
I'm just going to have a little blab here, is that people think that you need to get omega-3 fatty acids from fish, but the fish get them from the algae and the sea vegetables that they eat. So where I take omega-3, but I take a wholly plant-based omega-3 supplement, and it's from sea vegetables. It's from algae and sea.
Yeah, just cut out the middleman and go right to the source.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, Cindy, it's been so fantastic to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Before we go, I'm going to let you just have a little plug about your own website. What's coming up for you, and what can people can join you for? You've got some classes on, I understand.
I do. So In January and February, I have a Foods for a Healthy Heart class. There's one in January on a Saturday morning, January 22nd. And I repeat that class in February on a weeknight evening. And you can go to trimazing.com/events, and you can find those classes. And for your listeners, I have a coupon code or a discount where you can get $5 off the class. I'm going to bring up my code here so you can see what it is. If you go to trimazing.com/events and you click on the Foods for a Healthy Heart class, either the one in January or February, and you enter Fab Health as the coupon code, Fab Health, you can get $5 off the class. It's all on Zoom. It's 2 hours long. And the first part of that class is a presentation from Dr. Neil Barnard talking about heart health. And then I spend the rest of the time with a live cooking demo, teaching you how to cook really fabulous whole plant-based food, cook it without oil.
Yes.
And I've got 3 fabulous recipes, lemon berry pancakes, a really fantastic, irresistible white bean dip that kids love. And they love the pancakes too. And then also a really great sesame quinoa salad. And you get all of the recipes and all kinds of resources to go with it. It's a lot of fun. They're interactive. You got people from all over the world that come to the classes. So they're really fantastic. And one lucky viewer of each of those will win a copy of Dr. Esselstein's Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease book, which is just a phenomenal book.
Oh, it is a phenomenal book. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm going to put the links for that on this show as well so that people can join that. And you've got 6 weeks or something to do it. So lots of time. All the people who watch the replays can join your class as well. So Cindy,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for including me. I was thrilled to be here.
You're welcome. So that was lovely Cindy Thompson. I really, really enjoyed talking to her. So next week on Fabulous Health, I'm going to be joined by one of my favorite people, Tyra Eberween. She is an internet sensation. I've actually known her since she was 16 years old, and she's going to talk about being vegan and also having an eating disorder, not concurrently though. So that's going to be an interesting talk, and we will see you next week, same time, Monday at 10 a.m. Central Time on the Fabulous Health Show. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you later. You have a fabulous day.